Well, greetings, podsters and podlars, and welcome to Cazza and Tracy Talk Gavin and Stacey. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Caroline.
And we're friends who, like Gavin and Stacey, met online in the noughties. We connected over small humour, over how life is funny in the minutiae of things, and we also found that we like to read and watch many of the same things. And one of those things was Gavin and Stacey, which is also a show celebrating small humour, as well as kindness and bluster and people being magnificently themselves in all their flawed glory. And now that the show is having its one last hurrah with a final Christmas special, we thought we'd rewatch it all, remind ourselves why we loved it, and find out whether we still do. So we're up to episode 3 in season 2, and as always, we'll begin with Tracy's Pracy. Now, I had a bit of trouble pracying this episode because there's a lot of scenes that are a lot of fun, but don't really drive the plot or the characters. And when I was reading back over my Pracy, it was about as interesting as listening to someone describe their dreams, because it was just like then they, and then I, and then they.
Yeah.
So in terms of plot, we find out that Stacey is having trouble getting a job. When Smithy told Lucy about Nessa's pregnancy, Lucy broke up with him. Gavin and Stacey drive Smithy to Wales for the baby scan. And then we see Nessa and Smithy at the scan, which is in the last 2 minutes of the show. But really, there's a lot of classic scenes in this episode, which I'm sure we'll touch on while we're talking this episode over. But yeah. I loved it. I really loved this episode. So what was it about for you?
Oh, I really think we were getting into the characters in this one. This is just, let's find all the, well, not all, but just really get the quirks happening. So we get a bit more background into Smithy, and I think that that's probably important in terms of his character arc, is that we kind of start to see what sort of family he's from, and we see more of his sister, and we hear a fantastic story about his mother, which, oh my God, I enjoyed that scene so much. Can I talk about it?
Yeah.
Gavin and Stacey and Pam and Mick are sitting around the breakfast table or a food table and discussing how Smithy is going since he heard the news and they got him to face up to it. And it gets brought up that Smithy's got this, in Pam's opinion, terrible mother. And I do like, it goes on through the series. Every time Pam has to deal with Smithy's mother, she's just like, oh, no, I can't. She's the worst. And Mick's going, oh, she's not that bad. She is that bad. And, you know, she is that bad. But she tells this very racy story about how when Smithy's mother worked as a dinner lady, she got into an affair with the head of the school, not the headmaster as Stacey mistakenly thinks, but the headmistress. And they were going at it hammer and tongs, and then Smithy's mother decided not to do it and then got laid off and then got paid out for being laid off. And then there's this whole joke about how you can't trust the source of the story, which is No Man Jan, who's been divorced 3 times. But the gusto which Pam tells Stacey this story, like her eyes light up and she's just so enjoying telling the drama. It's a magnificent scene. Like, you know, it's probably scurrilous gossip, but I just really enjoy the way Alison Steadman brings that whole, of course Pam tells stories like that. Of course she knows them, and she'll have listened to it the first time going, really? Oh my Christ. And then she's telling Stacey with that same, and Stacey's also reacting really well going, what?
Yeah.
You know, I love that scene.
It is a great scene. And I think there's lots of great scenes, but it is, as an episode, it's a bit of a placeholder for me, I think, in terms of like not much, the plot doesn't move along very much, but really.
We get a few more characters. We get a bit more of Rudy, Smithy's sister. Yeah. We get a bit more of Doris, Gwen's neighbour in Barry. There's I thought that I don't know what you call it, the place Barry Island, the fairground sort of setup where Nessa works. That feels like it's a little bit of a character in this show too. Yeah. And so we have a bit of a scene in there. So it's about developing these extra little characters, I thought.
How was it facing a test of time for you? Cringy, problematic, anything standing out?
We get the breakup with Lucy, so there's some pretty off stuff in that, and I think that they wanted it to be off.
Yeah, I just hate that.
Do you want to talk about the Lucy breakup stuff?
Oh, I just hated it. I just thought it was awful. And by now I'm like really done with the Lucy storyline. I'm like, I wish they'd just get it out. And
because it turns out she's got herself another older boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, he's
So
not heaps older,
he's
though.
21. He's 21.
Yeah.
And she's just turned 18.
Yeah. They're in youth theatre together. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that was overcooked and unnecessary.
Well, I mean, I'm glad she's moving on away from that terrible relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, you never in the whole series ever meet Lucy. She's.
No.
Oh, do you think they'll bring her out for the Christmas special?
Oh, maybe.
Imagine if she suddenly.
Oh, maybe.
Well, you could have they won't do it, but you could have a whole story about how he groomed her or something. Oh, my God.
Oh, that
would be a very dark special event.
Look, and I'm going to say I'm not sure how I feel about the conversation Doris has with Nessa and Gwen about her daughter. So it's kind of funny to start with, but then, because she's like, I didn't really like my
bond.
Yeah, but then she says, sometimes I'd see her and I'd be filled with hate. And I know there's a thing in comedy where you push the joke as far as it'll go. And I also know that at the time there was a lot of bad mother stuff going on, which was a lot about reclaiming autonomy over motherhood and all of that kind of stuff. But I feel like that is not cool. I just really didn't like it.
Yeah. No, I didn't like it either. You're right.
It was funny. Like, I can see it was funny, but I don't know. I just didn't really like it.
I mean, I do really like the character of Doris, but I really didn't like the way she came on to Gav either. It was pretty strong. And, I think that, again, it was that pushing the joke, an old lady wants sex.
Yeah.
But having said that, I really liked the Doris character. And she,
and that's
it's very
part of
sad
her character.
That, that actress is no longer with us and can't still be in it, which is great.
Yeah.
But, no, I agree. I didn't like that stuff at all.
What about character development?
I think Pam is in a very joyous stage at the moment, that gossipy story. And the other thing is there's that stuff with Stacey sort of lying around the house, and Pam comes in having just been at a jiu-jitsu lesson and then invites Stacey the next day to go to her fencing class.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is really sweet, that she's this well-off middle-class, middle-aged woman who is really doing things with her time. She's not sitting around watching TV. She's out there. She's doing her classes, being with her friends. And so I did love all that. And I also really enjoyed Stacey's, all of that stuff about being in bed and not being able to do many things when you're unemployed, even though you've got, in theory, all day to go and apply for jobs. How you just, all your motivation gets sucked out of you. And
it's very believable.
Yeah.
And I like, there's a scene where we see Smithy with his sister, which is one of the first. And I kind of really like the way in this Smithy's still an arse, because somehow for me it makes his development in terms of his relationship with his baby a bit more authentic.
Yeah.
He hasn't had a complete personality change, but there's a bit more depth to his character. So I kind of quite liked that.
Oh, I love that scene. So did you know that Sheridan Smith and James Corden were dating at that time?
Oh, I did not.
Okay, so they were in a relationship, and I think that the way that they absolutely throw each other into that physical fight where they're rolling around and hitting each other,
make a lot more sense.
It speaks to a real, comfort within each other. I think that's really interesting. And it's a real callback to this sort of Am I Bothered character of Lauren Cooper, of Catherine Tate's character. Yeah, when she's just mimicking him and it's so brother-sister.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
And
then she sort of rolls out of that. I mean, can you imagine having a fight with a man who's that much bigger than you? Like, you're not getting many punches in.
No. Well, she goes for him first, doesn't she, to make it all happen.
But then she just rolls out of it, answers the phone and I just had a fight with my brother.
Had to fight my brother.
It's really cute. She's irrepressible, that character. I love it.
Yeah. And what about the heartfelt moments?
Oh, it's obviously that very last moment when you see both their faces when confronted with an actual little heartbeat inside her stomach.
Nessa and Smithy,
Nessa and Smithy, yeah. I had all the feels and
yeah.
About you?
So I had one earlier on before that, and it's when we see Bryn and Nessa down in the arcade where Nessa's. I really like their friendship, how they sort of just sit around chewing the fat. They know each other so well,
I really enjoyed that too. There's a quietness to their friendship, which I think that Bryn doesn't have with anyone else.
Yeah.
Really over the top with everyone else.
Yeah.
Necessarily, they just sit and then they'll do their song and he'll ask her questions. Yeah, it's lovely.
And obviously the scan is beautiful, but what I especially loved about that was when the nurse is trying to understand their relationship and, like whatever, and then she says, so you're friends? Oh, so just friends then? Yeah. And Nessa says, well, I wouldn't say we're friends, would you? And Smithy just shakes his head. And I thought that was a really powerful kind of thing. It's like we're not friends. We don't even like each other. And yet here we are and we're going to do it. I just thought, again, there was so much richness in that. Like she could have just shrugged. But she goes, I don't think we're friends, and then checks with him, would you? It was just really lovely and just brought another dimension. Like it stopped them sort of immediately going gooey over the scan, which could easily have happened and been a cliched kind of, here we are. Your favourite joke or line in this show?
Big laugh out loud moment was when Stacey, the whole brunch thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so Stacey's got up too late for breakfast, but it's not quite lunchtime. She's hungry. So she sits there telling Pam about her brunch and then says, and I've rung Mum. And Pam stops her and says, I'm not being funny, but what you said just now was really boring. I mean, I can jabber with the best of them, but that I switched off at the end of banana.
Yeah.
It was so lovely. And then minutes later, Nessa rings and says, what's this I hear about brunch?
Brunch. I know, that was a nice line. She was, what's this I hear about a brunch? They're still so connected,
so connected.
She's still such a Barry girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been on the phone to her mum. And
I think that you are meant to laugh at the whole stuff with Smithy and Bryn working out in Bryn's
gym,
spare bedroom, which is now a gym. But I just imagined
it was gross.
Sweating, bare-chested men and, yuck. Yeah, no, I just went, I can't laugh at this.
I didn't understand what that scene was there for. These stayed at Bryn's house because the night before the scan, so they're in time for the scan. And Bryn's set up this gym. Gavin goes over to get Smithy, and Smithy and Bryn are working out in the gym. I kind of didn't really see what the point was. Like, it wasn't an especially funny. It didn't move the plot.
No,
maybe other people thought it was funny. Yeah.
And look,
maybe it is.
You know, that's sort of big physical humour, the big fat bloke with his shirt off like that. I think they were milking that joke. But for me, I just went, not because of his size.
No, just because of,
like
in a small
I have to give
room.
Steve a hug and he's sweaty like that. I'm just like, your skin feels disgusting. Don't touch me when you're sweaty. So I'm having a very
visceral
reaction.
Yeah, me too.
Whereas I think most people, that they're making sort of sex faces and sex talk while they're flailing around with gym equipment. I think you're meant to laugh at that, but that just...
Yeah, no, me neither. So there was a lot of laughs for me, but my favourite scene was the one that you've already described about Pam describing Smithy's mum and her relationship with the school headmistress. And Pam doesn't say that the Smithy's mum and the headmistress were going hammer and tongs. She says hammer and tongue.
That's what I thought she said.
It's hilarious.
And then I looked at the subtitles to see, but maybe they just
No,
made
the subtitles.
assumption.
Yeah. That was hilarious.
That was hilarious. I thought she said hammer and tongue as well.
Yeah.
And just, she's so good, Alison Steadman and Joy. And then the little aside where she puts her hand over her mouth and says, it is true. Yeah.
In the final line of, quiz question. I forgot.
Quiz question, yeah.
Well, you ask me and I'll see if I can remember what my question was.
Okay. Can you remember what the name of Nessa's stockbroker was? There was a lot of stock market jokes in this, which just seemed pointless, like just checking the footsie and the Tokyo and all that, just to show that maybe Welsh people aren't.
Yeah, I didn't understand what all that was. It was just
yokels. I don't know, but there was a lot of stock market stuff. But Nessa has a stockbroker.
Yeah,
I can't
remember his name. No.
Damn it.
Oh, no, and they were waiting for Tokyo to open. I can't remember what my question was. So
20?
Yeah, sorry. I'll ask you two next time. Yes.
Well, I've got a couple of backup questions. Do you want to try them?
All right. Yep.
Can you remember the name of Doris's terrible daughter?
It wasn't Mildred, but it was like, it starts with an M, I reckon. Maeve, Millicent, Millie. No, I can't remember.
Moira.
Oh, Moira.
Yeah.
I'll bring my question.
So you obviously wiped that scene because you went, no, it's not right.
Yeah,
not remembering anything about that. And also, there you go, not remembering stockbroker stuff because really why was all that stockbroker stuff?
Yeah, that's what I mean. When I was doing the précis, I was a bit like, well, we're just jumping back and forth, really, because it was all about getting to the scan, and that was the last 3 minutes. I checked.
Oh,
literally.
you know what I do want to mention is that Bryn and Ness sing a song together when they're having that lovely heart-to-heart in the fairground, and they sing something stupid in 2-part harmony, and they just sing it, and it's lovely. Yeah. And then Bryn brings up Islands in the Stream, which I think later on in the series they will sing together.
Yes, they do. It's a bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah, but it is lovely, the two of them singing. To sit in the moment and hear them sing, and that is something that comes. I hope there's a song in the Christmas special.
Yeah, there should be. Well, in the final line of this episode, the nurse says, "Makes it all seem real now, doesn't it?" And we are ready to see what comes next in episode 4.
Yay!
Talk to you then.
Next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.